Hi, it's Thursday, bit of a dull day out in the summer house, but it's not very summery, as it were. And I thought I'd do another vlog about the whole concern that some of you have expressed to me just by private communication, that in the goldfish bowl effect of lockdown, you've been looking at yourself and you've been seeing certain aspects of yourself magnified, as it were, things that you don't particularly like about yourself that are harmful to you and perhaps even harmful to those around you, and certainly not adding to life in all its fullness that is Jesus' gift as he lives in his people. And yesterday we made a start at, this isn't a systematic look at that whole business, but I made a start, as it were, with some things that I hope were helpful, and the response has been very good, and I thank you for that. And I encouraged you yesterday not to run away from these things. I encouraged you rather to bring yourself into the grace of God, into the love of God, and to be a safe place for yourself, where you can begin to look at yourself more deeply in the atmosphere of his compassion, Jesus' compassion, and Jesus' help. And I just want to build on from there, but to pause at that point for a wee bit longer. There's a very famous quote from Carl Jung, and maybe like me, you'd be concerned about some things that Carl Jung says for sure. But this is something that I've quoted at times over the years, and which I actually find very helpful. And I hope that you might find it helpful too, just in terms of you're looking at yourself in a kindly way. You'll never get yourself better by whipping yourself for all the wrong things you see. That just doesn't work. Listen to what Carl Jung says. What I do unto the least of the brethren, that I do unto Christ. Of course, he's just quoting what Jesus himself says there. What I do unto the least of the brethren, that I do unto Christ. But what if I should discover that the least among them all, the poorest of all beggars, the most impudent of all the offenders, the very enemy himself, that these are within me, and that I myself stand in need of the alms of my own kindness, that I myself am the enemy who must be loved. What then? As a rule, the Christian's attitude is then reverse. There is no longer any question of love or long-suffering. We say to the brother or the sister within us, Raka, you fool, and condemn and rage against ourselves. We hide it from the world. We refuse to admit ever having met this least among the lowly in ourselves. I think that's really profound. You see, some of you listening to this who know there are areas in your life that still need the forgiveness of God, that still need the healing touch of God, his restoration, his reformation, these areas where you still need new resurrection life instead of old fleshly life, whether it's a fleshly life that has developed through what others have done to you, life has done to you, or what you yourself have done. That the thing is that if we met some of the things that we struggle with in other people, we would actually try to show them the love and the kindness and the mercy of God. And we would assure them that if they bring their weaknesses to Jesus, that's what they'd find. And yet, why is it that we find it so difficult to treat ourselves in the same way? So this idea of being kind to ourselves, it's actually the Christian thing to do. It's not evading responsibilities. It's just recognizing that actually nothing changes by whipping ourselves or condemning ourselves. Nothing changes with actually being angry at ourselves for our shortcomings. If you were a dog, you'd be unlikely to come back to an owner who was shouting angrily at you. The old way of training dogs used to be very firm and quite rigidly strict, even to the point of punishment. That punishment was the way to get a dog to behave. And things have turned around now. They've now realised that dogs are actually wired for affection. They're wired to want to please people. And actually the way to get their behaviour to change is through affection and encouragement and reward, not through angry voice and punishment. So this idea, this starting point of being kind to yourself is really important, and it's actually very Christian and an obedience to Christ himself. Let me just move on a wee bit now and give you something else to think about. I don't want to leave you with too much to think about each day, but just to give you maybe 1 or 2 pointers to go away and think about and pray about for yourself. If we adopt this attitude of kindness towards ourselves, we'll begin to see the things that frustrate us, annoy us, anger us, bring us to despair about ourselves in a more kindly way. See, some of the things that we still need inner healing for actually got there because at some point in our life, probably in the formative years of our childhood, maybe later years, but more probably in the early years, we found ourselves in circumstances that felt unsafe. We either felt unsafe or insecure, or perhaps not fully, securely affirmed and loved. And that's a very panicky feeling for a child, because it's a very, very basic human need to feel secure, to feel safe, and as part of that, to feel affirmed and welcomed and loved. And when we're in doubt about that, we have to find a strategy to survive. And for some people, the strategy was to become maybe an armadillo, to armour themselves against other people, to armour themselves against feeling, because that was the way to keep safe. For others, it was maybe to become a prickly pear and to hit out in anger, aggression of either voice or even behaviour that would keep others at a distance and create this secure space around us. For me, battling with childhood insecurities, my defence was trying to be successful, trying to be academically successful. And it could go on and on. Some people become the clown because they somehow feel if other people laugh at them and find them amusing, that somehow that creates a feeling of safety and security to keep the feeling of lack of safety and security at bay. And you see, the thing is, whatever your strategy was, the thing is that on one level it worked. On one level these strategies work. They somehow do create that bit of security, that bit of safety that makes life survivable and tolerable, even if it isn't life in any sort of fullness. As we come to a stage of recognizing these things about ourselves, we begin to see that they didn't only have a friendly face, they had a sinister face as well. And maybe you're seeing that about some of your survival tactics, the things that became part of you in order for you to feel safe. And the fact that some of you are writing to me under these lockdown times, I think that's maybe what's happening. Things that seem to work, you're maybe now looking at in a different way, and you're beginning to see their sinister face. So what do? Picking up the earlier theme, do you get mad at yourself? That's not helpful. Rather, you should look upon yourself in a kind way and see that actually at that moment in time, whenever you adopted these strategies, you didn't really know any better. They seemed to suggest themselves to you as possibly a good thing to try, and you didn't know any better. So look upon yourself in that kind light. And I want to suggest something else, that you look at your survival strategy in a kind light as well, because it did help you, but now you're beginning to recognize its sinister face. One of the most helpful things that I did to come more into life in all its fullness was a suggestion by Brennan Manning in one of his books that I should write a letter to my counterfeit self. And that's the counterfeit self. It is made up of me plus the strategies I'd adopted in order to feel secure in the world. This, my strategy, remember, was success. But actually that strategy, although it seemed to work, had created actually further insecurity, because I never felt successful enough. And so the anxiety and the insecurity, it actually was increased through the survival strategy. It didn't decrease. But it had helped me, especially in my teenage years. And so what Brennan Manning suggested was that you write a letter to your counterfeit self, thanking the survival strategies for the bit of help that they gave you, but telling them that you didn't need them anymore and wishing them goodbye. In other words, you don't whip the survival strategy that seemed to help you a bit, despite the sinister face you now see in it. But you offer it an olive branch, saying you helped me a bit. But actually I see now that you damaged me and would be damaging for me to continue in a relationship with you, my survival strategy. And I thank you, but I now wish you goodbye. And I wrote that letter to myself, and I found it a profoundly powerful thing to do. So I think I'll stop there for today. The thing that you see about yourself that you don't like, that you know is not blessing your life or blessing those around you, it probably got there for an understandable reason. Don't whip it. Why not thank it for being helpful in as far as it was helpful? But now, wish it goodbye. Recognize, because of the love of God, you don't need that survival strategy any longer. So I hope that might help you. I'm just going to offer you random things that I found have helped people that I've pastored over the years and have helped myself. And today there's the follow-on suggestion from yesterday. Treat yourself with kindness. But this new suggestion, treat what you don't like about yourself with kindness as well. It probably got there because at a formative stage of your life you felt insecure and unsafe, maybe physically, maybe emotionally or whatever. And it actually probably helped you a bit. But now you're seeing it wasn't all helpful. And it's time to thank it for the measure in which it did help. but it's also time, in the strength of being loved by God, to wish it goodbye in order to step more fully into the life that Jesus can give. The security of being loved by God, with a love that's been there from all eternity, that's there today, and will be there for all time to come. So may these thoughts today bless you and help you. And I'll have a think about what to say for vlog 3. But just as I close, maybe you want to write a letter to your counterfeit self, to your survival strategy, saying thank you, but now I wish you goodbye. And from me, bye for now.